All right, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Content Bacon's webinar on how to use video as part of your content strategy. We are, broadcasting, narrowcasting from our offices in Davie, Florida, affectionately known as Porklandia. We'd like to welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about using video as part of your content strategy from script to screen. My name is Dave Custon. I'm one of the co-founders of Content Bacon. I'm here with my partner, Wendy Lieber.
Hi, everyone.
So today we're going to talk about video. And one of the most compelling things you can do is put a play button on your website. And so what does that really mean from a data standpoint or from a practical standpoint? And so some of the research that we have seen reveals some very compelling data, such as 59% of executives would rather watch video than read text. I'm going to go out on a limb and say millennials, perhaps that number is even higher for millennials or for some other demographics. 64% of users are more likely to buy a product after watching a video. And video makes you 50 times more likely to rank number one on Google. Those are really compelling statistics and a really important part of content marketing. Just a quick note on some upcoming webinars. On April 21st, we have a webinar about everyday ways to use your content to create more conversations. And on May 19th, we're talking about building a database to share your content with. And then over the summer, we're going to have some other webinars that we're putting together right now. So why content? Wendy's going to talk a little bit about why content. This is really where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, if you've attended any of our other webinars, we always show this slide, and it's the foundation of why content matters. And John Jantz, he's a really great author, great all-around guy, great marketing guru. He is the one who shared this definition of marketing with me a few years back, and it really resonated because that's, marketing is one of those words that everyone thinks they understand until you ask them what it means, and then you get a million different answers. And I thought this was probably the best definition I had heard, that the reason that you're doing marketing and is you want your audience, your target audience, to know, like, trust you, so that they'll buy from you, try from you, buy from you, repeat, and refer. So content helps with all of these aspects of the marketing funnel, if you will. And video, more importantly, can help kind of fast track some of those things that we'll get into a little bit later. But this truly is, I think, the foundation of why we do what we do and why content matters. And it's really easy to look at all your marketing efforts and determine which part of this, funnel, if you will, they support.
So we like to think of content as a full-time salesperson or as a salesperson that works 24/7. Content is always working. So if you imagine written content and video content kind of working together to accomplish what you see on this screen, it's an invaluable tactic to engage in.
And this, again, is a quote by my partner that we were talking one day, and he said this, and I think, again, it just really, is important. It's easy to feel connected to a brand or company after hearing their story. And that's what we do. We often refer to ourselves here as storytellers, and content is a great way to tell your story. And there's a lot of different formats to tell your story, video being one of them. But it's true, once you learn more about a company, once you put the human face to it, it makes it a lot easier to want to connect with them, to want to develop a relationship with them. And again, that's really why we're doing what we're doing, is to build those relationships, to create those conversations.
So speaking of a human face, here's one right here. This is a human face. This is Gary Vaynerchuk. For some of you that perhaps do not know who Gary is, He's the head of a pretty significant agency based out of New York. He's done a lot of things in the social media space for a long time. We follow him. We listen to what he has to say. We've actually heard him speak a few times in person. And that quote from Gary on top of his video couldn't say it any better. Video is the next best thing to being in person. And again, if you kind of think about what I said before about content working for you 24/7, video content, written content, will do just that. It's sort of like being in person. It's helping your customer or prospect understand what it is that you want them to understand about your business.
Yeah, and I think just to say a little bit more about Gary, if you've watched any of his videos, you know exactly who he is, and you know whether you like him or you don't like him. I mean, there are people that, have heard him, he drops the F-bomb a lot, he's super aggressive. I love him. Like, I know that, and I feel like I know him, and I have seen him in person speak, but I've never sat down to dinner with him. But I feel like if I did, that introductory period would be very brief, because I've spent enough time watching his videos and hearing him that I know who he is, what he's up to, and his personality, and it resonates with me. And I think that's, another reason why video can be so powerful to kind of fast track you from the know, like, trust, because you're either going to resonate with someone when you see them on video or you're not. And it's just a great way to create that relationship without having to be in person.
So there's a ton of different types of videos that you can create. In fact, the first one here on the top left, recorded webinars. We're doing just that. This webinar is being recorded, and we will create a video out of it that then gets published and promoted throughout our online footprint, we call it. So there's lots of ways you can create video content. I think a lot of folks get really hung up on thinking that they need to create Hollywood level production videos, and you don't need to. You can do those, of course, but you don't need to have a content or video content strategy. There's many other kinds.
Yeah, and again, if you've ever been on any of our webinars, one of our sayings is, make it bad, make it better. Perfect is better than done is better than perfect. And I think it goes that the same holds true for video. And I think a lot of people do get hung up thinking that, oh my gosh, in order to do video, it's going to be super expensive, or I have to hire a professional. And we're going to share with you some different videos we've done, from, super down and dirty to a little bit more polished, but you can use them for a lot of different things. And we're gonna show you how you can do that, and what those look like, and the steps to take.
Okay, so clearly all of you are on this this webinar. Those of you who are here, you're interested in video. You think there is some value to it, but again, to get really practical about it, why invest in video? It increases open rates, click-through rates, reduces unsubscribe rates in email marketing, and it's really effective for brand awareness and lead generation, as well as just overall engagement.
Yeah, and before we got on this call, I was sharing with Dave some statistics. I pulled up some more compelling statistics, but and some of these really surprised me. But they say that watching a video, you retain 95% of that content, versus if you're reading something, you only retain 10%. And a minute of video is equal to about 1.8 million written words. So a video allows you to pack a lot of information in a short amount of time. And why that's important is we know that, you generally have, I don't know, some people say 3 seconds, some people say 10 seconds to grab someone's attention. And so a video might, be much more effective for your audience to grab that attention. And then, in terms of, like we say here, increasing open rates and click-through rates, also people will stay on your site an average of 2 minutes longer, which again might give them a chance to get to know you a little bit better, to take that next step. So there's no shortage of statistics that video is really an important part of an overall marketing strategy and a content strategy.
Okay, so let's jump right in. So steps to get started.
So we wanted to share with you, this is a video we did. Let's give you just kind of a snippet first, so you can kind of see what it looks like.
outsourcing tasks to a virtual assistant increase revenue? Well, that's exactly what happened when Continental Search partnered with Noon Dalton. Continental Search, a niche recruiting company in the animal agricultural segment, needed to outsource work that would allow their recruiters to focus on profit-generating tasks, like interviewing candidates and managing clients.
So this is an example of what we'll call a case study video that we did for a customer. And we want to just kind of share with you the steps that it took to do this so that you can understand and you can do it yourself if you wish. So it started out as a case study. Now, we actually did this case study for the customer where we called the client, we did an interview with the client over the phone, and then from that interview, we created a written case study that was then used as a download. Once we had that, it was very simple for us to then create an outline and a storyboard, which had some kind of notes on what the visual cues were for each area. And then from that, the more detailed script was created. It goes into animation, edits, a voiceover, and it's done. So it really was a simple and quick and very cost-effective process for this customer to take, an idea, something that they had always wanted to do, and actually get it done and be able to use it to help them explain more clearly to other prospects how they add value and how their services added value to this particular customer.
So if you've tuned into any of our other webinars, you've heard us say a million times, you really can't do anything beyond, or you can't do anything else in content marketing unless you have the content. And so in this case, it was the case study. You have to have that first, before they can move on to spending any dollars, let's say, to leverage that content or to promote the content. They first have to have it. So here's a real world example of that, and they turned that case study into a video, which they were then able to leverage numerous other ways.
So this next example is, again, what a lot of companies want to do is client testimonials, and we've all seen the written testimonials, and those can be great and very effective, and they can build trust. But I think a lot of us, sometimes wonder, oh, are those, really true, or are those made up? Sometimes, if they're on third-party sites, you get a little bit more credibility. But this was a customer that wanted us to do video testimonials. So let's just take a quick look.
My name is Danielle Silva. I'm president at FBR Aviation, and we started business here in 2007. My name is Giselle Barreto. I work for FBR Aviation, and I'm the vice president. We are in the business mainly of selling aircraft parts. We recently got some projects in for delivering aircraft and helicopters to Brazil. Because we're a small company, we couldn't get funding anywhere else. Curve came in and was able to.
So you can see how this could be very effective for this particular customer, Curve, which provides funding for companies to help tell their story and really build trust. So again, how we did this one was really simple. We set up a phone interview with the customer initially, and we did a quick interview with them on the questions to try to get a sense of how they might share their story, so that we could create a very loose script. So from the interview, we created this script. We scheduled the video. This is actually, having someone on site to film them. So this is a little bit different of an animal than the first one we showed you. We did this very casual interview style. So there was not a script that the customer had to memorize. They were comfortable already because we had taken them through the Q&A, so they knew what we were going to ask. And we wanted it that way. We wanted it to be very natural and not use a teleprompter. So off camera, what you don't see is off camera, we're asking the questions that are prompting the answers, and getting some other footage going into, and I think this video, Dave and I were actually both on site for this video. I mean, it was 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes on site. It was
not a long time. It was not a huge investment of time, at least for our customer. And
and our customer didn't actually even have to be there. Like, once they handed the reins over to us to introduce us to their customer, we took the reins and were able, to facilitate all of this on their behalf. So we got the footage, went into editing, went back and forth a little bit, and then it's done. And now they have this great video. We did a series of these, so they actually have quite a few of these that we did because we were able to get this really tight process down where it was, very cost effective, took up very little time for their customers, and really took up, zero time for, Curve in this case, which was our customer.
And so, one of the things that I want to touch on that Wendy did, which was in the testimonial space, I think people inherently have a BS meter built in. And when they see testimonials or quotes from random customer, I think people are able to, they know that oftentimes it's baloney. So I think what's really effective about these kinds of videos is that you can see they're real people, they're real customers, they have their name on it, their company name. And that level of authenticity has a real impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so example number 3, this is more of a promotional video. A lot of the language you hear us talk about is non-promotional content that is informational, whether it be video or written. This particular video, we were contracted by Ryder, which is a truck rental company based here in South Florida, and they wanted a video that was straight promotional. It was more advertising, if that's a word. And I'll give you a snippet of it here.
Looking to grow your fleet? The power of 3 is here. Throughout Ryder's 80-year history, we've been outfitting commercial fleets with the most reliable trucks on the road. Because we know, if you're not on the road, you're not working. Now you can take advantage of Ryder's legendary reliability to the power of 3. We've separated our pre-owned selection into 3 distinct classes.
So you can see in this example, it's very specific to a line of products or service that they have. They have 3 different kinds of truck classes that they're educating their customers about. And had I shown you the whole video, it's about a minute long, so it's not quite broadcast length, but it's close. And so the process for this one was, again, some download of information from our customer, which is Ryder, and really having them communicate to us the pain points that their product or solution is addressing for their customer. And then that moves into a scripting process where we develop the voiceover, and then we create some concepts on imagery. And then once that's approved, we go to image design, where we create all of the objects that you see in that video, people, places, and objects. And then that goes to voiceover casting next. And we deliberately found a Mike Rowe style voiceover artist. Their customer is 98% male. They drive trucks. They have air conditioning companies and general contracting companies. So it was very deliberate as to the kind of voiceover style that we wanted. We start creating animation drafts. We go through the editing process, and then we deliver a final product, which is what you see here.
So this next example, this is an example of taking some blog series and very quickly turning it into a video.
It really covers. Given all the expenses that come with owning a home, is homeowners insurance just another useless expense? The answer is no. In fact, homeowners insurance is essential. A good policy can save you money in the event that something happens to your home or belongings.
So again, this video was a result of, we had done for this customer, Avanti Insurance. We had done, we do their blogs for them, so we had done quite a few on homeowners insurance and answering questions over what it really covers. So when we went to make a video, it was really simple for us to kind of pull those blogs into a quick script and then move that into animation. So we've developed over time. We don't actually have our own in-house animators. We have kind of a team of different people that we work with and outsource that we trust. So it moves into animation, the voiceover, some very quick edits, and then it's done. So this is a great way to repurpose your blog content into videos, because if you're consistently writing blogs, you've got great content. And again, I can't tell you how simple this was for us to do because of that, because of the fact that we already had great content, great topics that we already knew people were interested in, people were reading, people were engaged with. So then to turn it into a video and amplify that was, just kind of natural.
Right. So I hate to sound like a broken record, but having the written content makes this possible, makes it easy. And what's really great is if you're tracking the content that works for your company, you want to turn the video, you want to turn the blog that is getting read a lot, that is getting all the action. You want to turn that one into a video, not the one that isn't getting any action. You agree with that, Wendy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, we have a plugin that we use for our different customers that we write their blogs, so we can kind of keep track of what blogs get the most views. And so you can kind of quickly tell what are hot topics. But conversely, if you see a great topic that may not be getting read a lot, it could beg the question, hey, does it need a different format? Maybe
Right.
It's too meaty. So I think it gives you good information to start as a talking point and to figure out, okay, if we're going to do some videos, I think looking at your blog content is a great place to start and say, okay, which of these can we easily turn into videos?
Right. And again, the simple fact is, or the simple truth is, content marketing is not a quick fix or a quick activity. It's something that you should always be doing as a matter of course for your business. If you've been in business for many, many years or some number of years and you haven't been doing it, it may feel painful to sort of think about, geez, I don't have any blogs.
Right.
But there's no better time to start than now, right?
Yeah. No, it's getting started is the hardest part, but it's also what you need to do to start building your assets.
Right.
So this is the same company. So this is an older video that we did when we first started working with them, and this was kind of FAQs. So instead of we have FAQs on their site, but we wanted to showcase the owner, and we wanted to make the FAQs a little bit more visual.
Should look at insurance the moment they open business. The reason why is because you have an exposure there. One of the biggest exposures that any business has from the get-go is liability. Your exposure to somebody else's damage to property or liability that your operation might cause. So that's.
I know you guys want to hear all about liability, but we're gonna deny you that.
And the reason we wanted to showcase this one, not because it's our best or work we're most proud of, it's pretty raw, but it was a great stepping stone for this customer, and it was easy to do these. And these videos, have gotten some good views, and it creates that connection with Gabby, who was the personality in that video. She's actually the CEO of the company. One, it was so easy for her to do these videos. So this was even simpler than the testimonial one. This was literally, I don't even think we did any prep work. I think I sat down with her one day, no script. I think I was using a flip camera at the time on a tripod. I did use a tripod, and just asked her questions. And she, because she knows her business so well and speaks about it so passionately, that it just made, we must have done 30 of these little Q&As within 45 minutes. That then used iMovie, did some quick edits, put a little cover on them, and we were done. And so now again, that content lives, and when you do some searches for some of these very broad, generic, highly competitive terms, they show up because they're one of the few insurance companies, local insurance companies, that invested in videos, which is another great reason to do these, because so many of your competitors are not going to do them.
Right. I love that. I love telling customers or prospects that if you don't do it, your competition will.
So this is even more more basic and raw than the Avanti. So let's just show you this first, and then we'll tell you what it is. You click on the link. This is what the back end of a WordPress, the login screen of a WordPress site. So you log in, and then it'll take you to this screen, which again is fairly. All right, before we give up too much competitive information there. So these are training videos. So I use these with our internal team when I want to share, how to do various things. So basically we use a program called ScreenFlow. There's another popular one called Camtasia, but these are ones you can do really easily, and just this is the ability to show examples, real life examples of how to do things. And you can also use them for your customers too. So if you want to, if you want to share something, and again, have it be a little bit more gritty, a little bit more just, real life, like, hey, this is what you do. This is a super simple way. But I love these for training videos, because if you're in a growing business and you're trying to develop processes, and you're bringing on new employees and you want to train them on things, having I have a whole channel on our YouTube that's just training videos, where again these take very little time. They're there and they can be shared so people know exactly how to do things. So I wanted to show you guys this because I think this is an excellent tool and something that a lot of companies overlook, and on how to use video for their internal processes and operations.
I watched a video once. One of my keys on my keyboard came off, popped off, and I had no idea how to put it back on. And this style of video was the video that helped me solve my problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, my husband now is, the fixer of everything, because whenever anything goes wrong, he just goes on YouTube and looks it up, and, it gives him such pleasure to be able to fix our garbage disposal, So
it's great. And, we're advocates for giving away your best information. If my computer was broken beyond a key, I certainly would not be able to fix it. And I might seek out the expert that put that video online for me, because I trusted them. They connected with me.
And then I think this might be our last example, but this is just an example of taking a PowerPoint presentation and then converting it into a video that you can then upload to YouTube. So did you have an example of this? So it's basically, there's no sound on this, although it would have been very easy to add sound, but it was just basically taking a bunch of his slides and photos that we had created a PowerPoint for him that he wanted to use, and then just turn it into a video that could then be used different ways and put on his YouTube, optimized for his YouTube. So again, this might be materials that you already have laying around, and this could be amped up easily with some voiceover or some music that we just haven't done yet. So converting and literally how I did this was, after I had the PowerPoint, I sent it to my assistant and said, hey, can you Google how to convert a PowerPoint into a YouTube video? And then bam, it was done. So there's a lot of different ways to be able to convert assets you already have into video that you can then use different ways. And he actually has this playing in his salon.
And where else might you put this? Would you put this on SlideShare?
Yeah, no, for sure. It actually is on SlideShare as well. It's on SlideShare. He shares it on his social media. The main reason is he wanted it for his salon, but because it is on YouTube and SlideShare, which again, you can imagine that, a local salon, they're not doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
He's now, able to rank much higher, for Fort Lauderdale hairstylist and some other key terms that just doing it through, his website might have been much more challenging to do.
Right. Okay. We're going to talk about some of the steps, or just recap the steps. Before we get to the end here, I want to just remind everyone that we do take questions in the end. So think about some questions. We're going to get there in a couple slides.
Yeah, I think we actually left more time in today's webinar for questions, because we're hoping that you guys have some, some struggles that you're dealing with, and we can help solve those.
Yeah, so you can type those questions into the chat box, and we'll address them. So steps to create a video. Step number 1: who is your audience? What is your goal? What do you want to communicate to them? What do you want them to know about your company, a product, or a service? Determine how you will market your video. When you talk a little bit about that, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so I think before you go into production, you really want to determine how you're going to market it. If it's something that you're just going to put on your YouTube channel, maybe share through social media, that may dictate kind of the quality level that you need. So I think it's important to determine that, because then when you get into step number 3, it'll be a little bit more clear on exactly how you want to produce it. I mean, if it's something that you're going to showcase on your website, you're probably going to want to make sure that the quality is higher. So it really does, if you're going to, maybe do some paid promotion of it, you're going to want the quality even higher. So
Right.
I think you just want to determine how you're going to use it, how you're going to market it, where you're going to put it, so that you can, from the start, make sure that you've got kind of the right tone, personality, look and feel.
Okay. So that's that's sort of step 2 and 3.
Yeah, well, let me just say a little bit more about step 3. So I think, part of what we want you guys to get out of today's webinar is the fact that you can do a lot of this on your own. So, going back to those Avanti, FAQs, I mean, that's literally something you can do in your office
right now.
And there's no reason why you shouldn't do that. I think kind of man on the street style videos, kind of rough, videos, rough cut, not highly edited, those can be very effective, and those can really, get you to kind of feel like you get to know the person quicker. So I really, I think that determining how it's going to be produced and then creating that team, it may just be, you and one other person. If you're going to get into some of the animation, some of the voiceover, filming, then yeah, you're going to need to think about, okay, how are we going to outsource that? Who we're going to go to? And put that together and really create a champion of the whole process. Because, even if you're going to use some of the sites like Upwork or Freelancer or even Fiverr, those can be economical for different pieces. So yeah, you can't actually do voiceovers for $5 if you want it to be good, but there are some good resources on Fiverr where you can do a voiceover for $100. But it still takes someone on your team or someone that you've hired to facilitate all of that and to make it work together. So it's not as easy as just, going to one of those sites and saying, hey, I want a video. Like you still have to put all the pieces and parts together.
Right.
Okay. It's whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
Okay. And so step 4, create an outline / storyboard and script. So we always do a script, whether it be a very loose script like for the Curve video with the testimonial interview style, or a script that is very detailed like for the animated videos like we did for Writer. As it relates to storyboards, we're actually going to kick off another project for Writer where we are putting together an animation for a new reservation system for them, which will have a lot of screenshots about different parts of the reservation system. We will storyboard that out because it's very specific. It's less of a story like the promotional video we did for them. So sometimes you need a storyboard, sometimes you don't. It adds time and expense, so that's something to consider.
Well, I think too, if depending on what type of product or service you sell, if you find that your salespeople have to spend a lot of time explaining your product or service, a video that goes into more detail and kind of does that initially can really help expedite the sales process and can really help your salespeople be more effective because they don't have to spend all that time with people who may not understand the product or service. The video can do that job for them. So I think it's, you can use video really as a key part of your sales process as well, depending on your product or service.
Right. Step 5 is to create a production schedule. And so, this is really where something can spiral out of control or could just not happen because there's no champion for the project. Things need to be scheduled. Certainly in our business where we're hired to do these things, we have to stick to a production schedule as well as deadlines. There's no reason you shouldn't operate the same way if you're going to do that for yourself in your own business. Step 6 is to hand over to an animator, or if you're doing live action video, you got to get the production partner engaged at this point and kick it off and do it. As with animation and live action, there's usually a first cut or an initial draft, and that's a great way to see if your vision on paper has made it to the screen. And that process is really comprised of taking notes, reviewing what you have, seeing if there's anything that's been missed. One of the great things about animation is, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later on, but you have much more control, certainly after the fact too. If you're doing a live action production and you miss something, it's very difficult or time consuming or costly to make up for it. Animation is is much easier to deal with that.
Yeah, and just we had a customer recently give us a video they wanted us to create a landing page out of, and when I watched the video, it wasn't a bad video. It was animated. You could tell they did it on Fiverr, but the voiceover was a machine. I guess there's software now that instead of having to hire someone to actually do the voiceover, there's you can automate that, and it sounded horrible. I mean, it was just so bad. Now to them, they loved it because they had never done a video and they felt really proud, and which is great, and it was a good start. But adding that voiceover, we just went back and said, listen, add a professional voiceover. It's not going to cost you, if it costs you $100, it's going to make a big difference. So I think, that initial draft, really looking at it with a critical eye and making sure that, you're not skimping on things that can make a big difference, and good editing and things like voiceover and professional animation can make a huge difference from something being, kind of clunky. And if you do get your videos off Fiverr, you don't want them to look like they came off Fiverr.
Right. Okay. So once the note-taking process has been completed, then you implement those notes and changes where you can, of course. And then you get to a final draft, and assuming all the notes and edits have been made, you're done. You publish it, you promote it, you post it, you deploy it, whatever you're going to do with it. And then if, we advocate that this is a part of your business. So you review the process, you see what worked, what didn't work, and evolve on that. Okay, video checklist. Again, this is provided you're doing this on your own. Equipment and software. Obviously, you need a camera. If you're doing animation, you don't. And getting back to the comment about, good is better than perfect, or done is better than perfect. Camera phones are amazing today, provided you have, some other tools to help them do their job. Like a tripod, like lighting, a good microphone. Editing software. The native software on an iBook or a MacBook is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I love iMovie.
It's so user-friendly. It's so easy to use. So we're big fans of it. And then there's platforms or websites where you can get stock footage to supplement the footage that you've shot. And there's a number of stock video blocks is another one that I've used.
There's a ton of them.
There's
if
a
you
ton
just Google, you can find lots of sites for stock footage.
And so then every one of the great things about voiceover talent is if you engage a professional voiceover artist, and I use the word artist deliberately, they can elevate I'm going to use the word mediocre or perhaps not so polished video. They can really, really elevate it. So looking for a voiceover artist is something that we would encourage you to do. And then relative to the training videos that Wendy was talking about, ScreenFlow and Camtasia are two that we recommend.
Yeah, they're really easy to use. And again, I just can't tell you how simple it is. When I want to train someone, I just do it with my ScreenFlow and it's done. I save it. I upload it to our YouTube training channel that I make private, and I've got that. And then if I want to transcribe that, so this is, I guess a good tip too. If you want to, once you have your video, so let's say, we were talking about doing your blogs first and then creating videos out of your blogs. You can also do it the other way. So like, let's say you do your FAQs on video and you do, 100 FAQs. You can then turn that into copy that goes on your website, which is then, searchable. And so this whole idea of repurposing, which we are always, kind of advocating for, is so important, and it makes coming up with content so much easier when you constantly repurpose your content. And we use also a program called SpeechPad. So in fact, I just did something yesterday with a customer and sent it to SpeechPad. They transcribe it. I send it to our writing team, and they've got really good notes to then, use to create content.
Okay, awesome. So we got some questions here. The first one's from my friend Lewis. Hey, Lewis, I hope you're still on the webinar. Regarding the Avanti video, do you really want to be that close up? do viewers
Probably not.
do viewers prefer
If it was me, no.
what appears to be an amateur video? Yeah, well, I guess the answer is depends. I'm going to give you my answer, and maybe Wendy's differs. I think it depends. I think given that style of video or that particular video was a series of FAQs with the owner or the expert, I think that trumps anything. Assuming she doesn't look offensive or right or is not some kind of monster on screen, I think having the video, having the asset, because that video is now an asset, I think having that trumps any informality that the video may come off as or appear to be. Because at the end of the day, someone's going to retain the information. They're not going to care that the owner was close up and it was an informal amateur video. That's my opinion on the matter.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that in that case, it was being able to take some really, really common questions and do these 15-second, 30-second Q&A. It's such great content that now is searchable, and that's what people want. So I think that for them it worked. Yeah, looking back on it, would I like to redo that series with her again and make it more polished and professional? Absolutely, but getting started with that was hugely beneficial, and it served them well.
And so the flip side is her competition, they're still talking about doing a fancy video. Meanwhile, she already did the video and she's gotten benefits from it. And so, again, that's how we view it. She got it done, and she's benefiting from it. Okay, we have a question from Mary Gray. Isn't animation and professional videography expensive? What are the ranges your clients have experienced for those videos? Great question. This is always obviously a top question. And it really does depend. Animation, one of the things I love about animation is I have complete control over what is going to happen on the screen. To a degree with live action, you have that, but you're at the mercy of lighting. You're at the mercy of an actor who may be able to deliver what it is that you heard in your head when you wrote the script or not. So there's implications for both of those. For animation videos, animated videos, very basic animated videos can be had for as low as $1,500, let's say, and they can go up to $5,000 or $6,000. Length is obviously dictates price. Detail dictates price. How many rounds of revision dictate price. But I think from the $15,000 to $3,000 or $4,000, those are good parameters to think about for animated videos. Live action is really a whole nother animal. It's very difficult to quote without a script. Script drives everything, whether it's in Hollywood or here in Davie, Florida with a testimonial. How many actors do you have? How many sets do you have? How many locations, et cetera? So it's a little hard to give direction on live action budgets or costs, but they can range from, again, a few $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. It depends on the script.
Yep.
Okay, next question. Easy free. Is there an easier, free, or inexpensive editing tool for either Mac or PC? Yeah, the native application on Mac, on Apple, iMovie. We really love.
Yeah, I don't know what is PC based. I know iMovie. I started using it like 4 or 5 years ago. I just love it, and there's so much you can do with it.
Okay. Let's see. Here's a question from my good friend Carlos, who's on the webinar. What are some other successful ways of sharing promotional videos aside from on my website, social, or YouTube?
Yeah. So I think, again, depending on your product or service, videos can be really great for landing pages. So kind of the top of the funnel. If you're looking to grow your database and get more people that you can create those conversations with, you can create a landing page and then use paid advertising, paid social media to drive people to that landing page and get those people to opt in to whatever it is you want them to opt in using video. So really shame on Dave and I for marketing this video without a video. I mean, really, we kept trying to find time to do it and we just didn't. But something like that, if we had a landing page that had us speaking and then there would be the opt-in, maybe we would have tripled our number of people attending this webinar. So I think that's a really great way to use video. One really great way.
There's a second part to Carlos's question. So Carlos is spending a lot of money on a new video, and he wants as many impressions as possible. What are some ways? Is there a secret sauce to making sure that he gets as many, or he just has to spread his budget around?
Yeah, again, without knowing what his video is for and what the goal is, it would be hard to say. I mean, I think because of social media and the ability to target, Facebook has such a great video component now. Snapchat, they've really, amped up what they are doing in video, Instagram. So there's so many ways to now get your video out there using these resources and be able to highly target who the video is for.
Okay, great. All right, so we got that. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Okay, so as with all of our webinars, we want to thank you. We provide a special offer for those of you that showed up, and our special offer today is a case study and a video. So what that means is that if this is something you're interested in, we would create a case study, a written case study, and then turn that into a video, very similar to the Noon Dalton example that we showed you. That was the first video that we showed you. And if you're interested in that, you guys can email us at founders@contentbacon.com, or you can call us on the number that's on the screen. Let us know that you saw this on the webinar, and we'll obviously engage in getting that started with you. This webinar is also being recorded, and we will send it around, so you'll have an archive of it.
Yeah, and I think too, if you're not sure where to start and you just want to have a conversation on your business, Dave and I love just educating and having those conversations. So, don't hesitate to just reach out to us and just say, hey, I want to pick your brain about this, or I want to get your guidance on this. There no pitch involved. We love doing that. So please, think of us, as a resource that's there to help guide you. And we would, love nothing more than to hear from you.
Yeah, we're big believers and advocates for content marketing. So we're happy just to have a conversation. And a little bit about us. If you don't already know at this point, we're a content marketing service. We help companies easily source and distribute custom content for their business. And that means that on a regular basis, we're able to help customers write, and if it's video, produce and distribute, promote their content throughout their online footprint. And it's content that customers and prospects will find interesting, educational, and shareable. It's content that helps create conversations and opportunities. And that's it for today. We thank you guys very much, and we hope to see you on the next webinar. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.